Wow.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the GameSpot stage. You know, in the month leading up to E3, there were a lot of leaks, a lot of announcements of games coming out that, like, maybe they really wanted to do make a splash at E3, but the leaks, they thwarted them. This next game was not leaked, was a big splash yesterday at the Sony press conference. It's infamous First Light, and joining me on stage, I have Nate Fox, the game director from Sucker Punch, and Laura Bailey, the voice actress who plays Fletch in the DLC. Welcome, you two. So excited to have you here. Talk about First Light. You guys have been talking about it publicly for
24
minutes.
hours.
18
hours.
hours?
Yeah.
So this big DLC for Infamous Second Son, featuring Fletch, one of the great allies you have as Desmond in
Kind of the greatest
Delsin.
ally you have. I mean, let's be honest.
She
I'm
is
not-
awesome, and her
yeah.
power is so awesome. So, all right, let's set the
Okay.
stage. First Light, you know, where do we come in terms of the Infamous Second Son timeline?
So First Light is actually a prequel to Infamous Second Son. It's an origin story where we see how Fletch got her powers and went from kind of this girl next door to the kind of badass weirdo we meet in Second
Right.
Son. Takes place in the streets
Weirdo?
of Seattle. Well, she was
What?
pretty.
Eccentric?
How would you describe Fletch?
Awesome.
We'll stick with
Perfectly,
badass and
normally awesome.
Thank you.
Badass and awesome.
Yeah.
Well, if you're telling basically Fletch's sort of origin story, that's kind of dark. Like, she did not have a good time.
It is.
Yes.
Yeah, she had some hard things happening.
And we saw in the trailer, you know, it starts off and she's in detention, she's locked up, but even before the DUP got their hands on Fletch, she wasn't having a good time of it.
No. I mean, and that was, you know, in that little flash you got in Infamous Second Son, you saw, you know, her parents kind of betrayed her and she ran off and got a little addicted to some stuff. Yeah, so.
It definitely takes place on those hard days on the streets,
Yeah.
and also in this kind of high alpine prison called Curtain Cay Station, where they put anybody with superpowers. They lock them up. So that's, to me, it's kind of an interesting part of the franchise, because you always really wanted to go there in Second Son to see what it was like inside of that
Yeah,
superhero
absolutely.
prison.
Well,
Yeah.
let's take a look
get
at
to
the
go there.
trailer we showed yesterday, or B-roll you guys have brought. So here's a look at that alpine setting.
Yeah.
Now, this doesn't look like a place that you would have a lot of freedom to move around. Unless maybe you got rid of those concrete shackles.
You know, those crazy cuffs.
Yep.
So what does the player end up? So, I mean, you know, one of the great things about a DLC like this, with a different protagonist than the main game, is you get to tell a whole different story. You get to set the stage in an entirely different way, and sort of the player experience is then radically different. So what is Fletch's experience here in the DUP prison?
There are some details that I'd love to tell you about that we're kind of being a little hesitant on, but I can tell you the big point of difference is that while Delsin had the ability to draw neon out of the city and fuel his powers, Fletch can draw neon as well, but her powers are totally different. And that creates for a very different play experience, and mastering those powers is, I think, what you're going to get excited about. That's what I get
Yeah.
excited about, being able to use them.
I was excited to see the difference in fighting style between the two of them.
Totally.
Yeah.
Fletch is much faster, more physical.
Yeah.
As you can tell, she could punch a hole in your skull.
That's why I'm at a safe
Right,
remove here
yeah.
of a few feet, which
Just barely out of
would,
reach.
of course, not help me at all. Were you to be actually neon powered.
Right.
One of the moments in Infamous Second Son that I think is so powerful is that moment when you do get to first move around with the neon powers, because it's so quick. It's
Right.
so freeing. It's an incredible rush, and you know that sensation, I imagine, is captured in a lot of Fletch's gameplay, but then that's also set against this imprisonment. So, you know, how do you sort of manage that tone, you know, between that like neon freedom
That
and
euphoric lightness
Yeah.
of neon.
Well, as you might imagine, it's Fletch wants to get out of lockdown. I don't know. You've been in prison?
Myself, no, I have not been in prison.
You are a
Actually,
liar.
yeah, I've been to Alcatraz.
Oh,
No, I
right.
stayed a night there. Was you know, of my own volition, but
Well, Fletch wants out, and her power is actually it's kind of like inside baseball. But on Infamous Second Son,
yeah.
we made a bunch of neon powers, and we had to dial them back because they were just kicking the crap out of all the other powers. People only wanted to play with Neon.
Totally overpowered.
Yeah.
So when we gave Fetch and we were making her moves, we had no shackles. They could be totally badass. So everything that we couldn't put in on Second Son, we gave to Fetch. And it's all the high watermark abilities. And you use them inside of, these environments. Sorry, I'm being cagey about what
no,
I say.
I totally understand your
secrets.
position. We basically cut the trailer to go off of, and you guys are being coy about other stuff. But I feel you. But Laura,
right.
I want to talk to you about voicing Fetch because you are a prolific voice actress, and you've been in an incredible variety of stuff. From voicing Dragon Ball Z characters
the
to
beginning.
Chun-Li in Street Fighter 4
Yeah.
to Catherine in the game Catherine, which I gotta say is a huge favorite among some folks at GameSpot.
It's got a very strong cult following.
It really
for
does.
Sure.
So, Sonic the Hedgehog characters,
Aw.
you've been all over the place, but, a lot of those characters are not human women.
Right.
So what was, did you sort of find any kind of identification here with Fetch that you maybe didn't when you're playing, Blaze the Cat?
Right. Well, she definitely comes from a more human place than many of my characters, and she's an adult, and she's dealing with a lot of issues that a lot of my characters in past projects wouldn't even come close to. So there's a grittiness to her that I don't get to experience with other characters, which was really amazing. And I was so excited when we got to come back for the DLC and see what made her become almost closed off and not trusting to other people, and you get to see the development of that, which was really cool.
So how many months did you spend as a drug addict or in prison to prepare for this role?
Oh.
Too personal. No.
All right. No.
I'm actually
I
curious.
kind of lucked out that I never.
Yeah, I'm actually curious to know, when you came on to voice Fetch, did you know there was going to be this sort of bonus adventure, or is that something they came back to you and were like, hey, listen, we got this plan, we want to bring you back in?
Oh, no, that was a surprise. I had no idea. I was stoked when I got the phone call.
Fans really like Fetch. We listened to feedback after Second Son came out, and Laura's really fun to work with and very talented, so we thought this is perfect to make this standalone story, which actually you don't need Second Son to play. It's a standalone game in its entirety, its own story.
However,
yeah, if you do have a copy of Second Son, you get extra content. That's pretty good.
pretty cool.
Yeah,
Of course.
I like it.
I may have gotten a little detail on that, and it is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're on the inside, Laura.
Yeah.
Do you find yourself, there's certain games you play and you get really into the mindset of the game and you start if it's GTA 5, you start thinking maybe that yellow line in the middle of the road, I don't need
Not
to
so
pay
important.
attention to it. You play, an infamous Second Son and you start thinking yeah, I'm just going to go up that building and then cross that rooftop and do you find yourself looking at neon signs a little differently now?
Looking at everything a little different now. I know it's really depressing when you can't just hop over a building, no problem. Just sit in traffic.
Life.
What?
a
Real
drag.
world.
And that's why video games.
I worried about that after Infamous 1, where you look for every electrical outlet, and I kept thinking, how many 5-year-olds right now are just looking at that outlet, thinking that it's food?
Thinking, what can I
What can
draw
I do
from
with that?
Well, yeah, because you look at the world as power, Whereas you and I might look at donuts as a source of our conduit ability.
Are you leaving me out of that?
Thanks for mentioning that, by the way,
Yeah.
and not bringing any. Really appreciate that.
It hurts.
Well, First Light, this is sort of falling in a, I don't know if I'd say it's a trend, but certainly something that we've seen it from other DLC from other games. When it's a whole new protagonist, a whole new perspective, and I love it when you get that chance to inhabit a game world from a different direction. So psyched to talk to you guys about Infamous First Light and standalone DLC for Infamous Second Son. Do we have a release date for it yet?
Yeah, August 2014 for $14.99 on the
$14.99?
PlayStation Store.
Low
Yeah.
price.
The
Very
good
cool,
deal.
very cool.
$14.99.
Laura, thank you so much for coming
Thank
on.
you, I appreciate
so
it.
much. Nate, thank you so much. Talking First Light as much as you could. We'll look forward to hearing more about it in the coming months. And have a great E3 show, you guys.
Thank you so much.
Much appreciated.